What if I told you that most people fail at gardening, not because they're bad at it, but because they've been lied to about how hard it's supposed to be? We've been conditioned to believe growing food requires perfect timing, daily watering, expensive tools, and constant effort. That belief alone is what keeps most people dependent on grocery stores. Lazy gardening doesn't mean careless gardening. It means smart gardening, choosing plants that work with your lifestyle instead of against it. Too many beginners quit because they start with crops that demand perfection. And when life gets busy, everything dies. In this video, we're breaking down 12 vegetables that are ridiculously easy to grow, even if you don't have time, experience, or patience. Let's get into it. Plant number 1, tomatoes. Tomatoes are at the top of this list because they give more food per plant with less effort than almost any other vegetable you can grow. Across the US and Canada, tomatoes grow successfully in zones 3 to 11 as long as they're planted after frost. Once their roots settle into the soil, tomatoes stop acting delicate and start behaving like survivors. What makes tomatoes perfect for lazy gardeners is how adaptable they are. They don't demand perfect watering schedules. If you miss a few days, they droop slightly, then recover on their own. They don't require constant feeding either. Even average soil can produce heavy harvests. This ability to bounce back is why tomatoes succeed where many other crops fail. Another reason tomatoes belong at number 1 is productivity. A single healthy plant can produce an overwhelming amount of fruit over a long season. You don't need a big garden or dozens of plants. 1 or 2 well-placed tomato plants can keep producing steadily for months with almost no extra effort beyond basic support. Tomatoes also teach lazy gardeners an important lesson. Once a plant is established, your job is mostly to stay out of its way. With sunlight, airflow, and minimal care, tomatoes take over the responsibility of feeding you. They keep flowering, setting fruit, and ripening until cold weather forces them to stop. Plant number 2, zucchini. Zucchini is famous for turning even the most neglectful gardener into a successful one. Thriving in zones 3 to 10, zucchini doesn't wait for perfect conditions. Once warm weather arrives, it grows fast, spreads wide, and begins producing fruit with very little encouragement. This plant's growth speed is one of its greatest advantages. Leaves expand rapidly, roots establish quickly, and flowers appear continuously. Many gardeners underestimate zucchini and end up overwhelmed by harvests because they didn't expect how aggressively it produces food. Zucchini also forgives almost every beginner mistake. Poor soil? It adapts. Missed watering? It survives. Forget to harvest on time? Or you simply end up with bigger squash. Unlike sensitive crops, zucchini doesn't shut down because conditions aren't perfect. Once zucchini starts producing, it enters a rhythm that's hard to stop. Harvest or not, the plant keeps pushing out new fruit. For lazy gardeners, this means you don't have to micromanage timing. The plant does the work while you show up when it's convenient. Plant number 3, green beans. Green beans are one of the most dependable vegetables for gardeners who want results without stress. Growing easily in zones 3 to 10, beans sprout quickly, grow fast, and start producing before many other crops even settle in. One reason green beans are so easy is their relationship with the soil. Beans fix nitrogen naturally, meaning they feed the soil while growing. This allows them to thrive in average or even poor soil without heavy fertilizing, making them ideal for low-effort gardens. Pole beans take this ease even further. When grown vertically on a trellis or fence, they reduce ground clutter, improve airflow, and make harvesting easier. Instead of bending and searching, the beans hang right in front of you, saving time and energy. Green beans don't demand precision. You don't need perfect spacing, exact watering schedules, or constant attention. Plant them, give them basic care, and they'll reward you with steady harvests that keep coming as long as the season allows. Plant number 4, lettuce. Lettuce earns its place on this list because it is one of the most forgiving and low-effort vegetables you can grow, especially for gardeners who don't want pressure. Across the US and Canada, lettuce grows well in zones 3 to 9, thriving best in cooler temperatures but still producing reliably with minimal care. Unlike crops that punish mistakes, lettuce simply grows, quietly and consistently. One of the biggest advantages of lettuce is how quickly it matures. From seed to harvest can take as little as 30 days, which means even impatient or distracted gardeners see results fast. This quick turnaround builds confidence and keeps people motivated, especially beginners who might otherwise give up. Lettuce is also a cut-and-come-again crop. Instead of pulling up the entire plant, you harvest the outer leaves and let the center continue growing. And this turns one planting into weeks, sometimes months, of continuous food with almost no effort beyond occasional watering. Another reason lettuce is perfect for lazy gardeners is its flexibility. It tolerates partial shade, shallow soil, and containers. Even if conditions aren't ideal, lettuce still gives you something, proving that gardening doesn't have to be complicated to be rewarding. Plant number 5, potatoes. Potatoes are one of the most hands-off vegetables you can grow, which is why they're perfect for lazy gardeners. They grow successfully across zones 3 to 9 and don't demand constant attention once planted. After the initial setup, potatoes mostly disappear underground and quietly do their work without asking for much. What makes potatoes especially easy is that most of the harvest happens out of sight. You're not constantly monitoring leaves or flowers. As long as the plant is green and growing, the real food is forming below the soil, protected from pests, wind, weather, and human error. Potatoes also tolerate imperfect soil better than many vegetables. They don't require rich beds or constant feeding to produce well. In fact, too much fertilizer often causes more leaf growth and fewer tubers. For lazy gardeners, this means doing less often leads to better results. Harvesting potatoes is simple and satisfying. At the end of the season, you dig once and uncover a hidden stash of food. And that sense of reward, minimal work followed by a large payoff, is exactly why potatoes remain a favorite for low-effort food production. Plant number 6, Swiss chard. Swiss chard is one of the toughest leafy vegetables you can grow, making it ideal for gardeners who want reliability. It grows well across zones 3 to 10, tolerating heat, cold, and inconsistent care better than most greens. Once established, Swiss chard simply refuses to quit. What sets Swiss chard apart is its ability to keep producing no matter how often you harvest. You cut the outer leaves, and the plant responds by pushing up more from the center. This allows continuous harvests over a long season without replanting or extra effort. Swiss chard is also extremely forgiving of mistakes. Miss watering? It recovers. Forget to harvest for a while. The leaves get bigger, not bitter. While other greens bolt or shut down, Swiss chard keeps growing steadily. For lazy gardeners, Swiss chard offers long-term consistency. One planting can feed you for months with minimal attention, proving that dependable food doesn't require constant work. Just the right plant choice. Plant number 7, radishes. Radishes are one of the most rewarding vegetables for lazy gardeners because they deliver results almost immediately. Across the US and Canada, radishes grow easily in zones 2 to 10, making them one of the most widely adaptable vegetables on this list. Which they don't need perfect soil, fancy care, or long-growing seasons. They just grow. One of the biggest advantages of radishes is speed. Many varieties are ready to harvest in as little as 25 to 35 days. This means even if you forget about them for a bit, you're still rewarded quickly. For lazy gardeners, that fast payoff makes gardening feel easy instead of frustrating. Radishes are also incredibly forgiving of soil conditions. They'll grow in compacted, rocky, or less than ideal soil where other vegetables struggle. As long as the soil isn't completely waterlogged, radishes push through and form edible roots without complaint. Another overlooked benefit is that radishes don't demand constant monitoring. Plant them, water occasionally, and check back later. Even if they get slightly oversized, they're still usable. For gardeners who want low effort with fast results, radishes are almost impossible to beat. Plant number 8, spinach. Spinach is a perfect lazy gardener crop because it thrives when conditions are cool and forgiving. It grows best in zones 3 to 9, especially during spring and fall when temperatures are mild and watering needs are lower. This timing alone makes spinach easier than many summer crops. One reason spinach works so well is its shallow root system. It doesn't need deep soil or raised beds to perform. Even containers or shallow garden beds can produce steady harvests with minimal setup, making spinach accessible to almost anyone. Spinach is also a cut-and-come-again vegetable. You harvest the outer leaves and the center continues growing. This allows multiple harvests from the same planting, reducing the need to replant or manage new seedlings constantly. While spinach will eventually bolt in hot weather, it doesn't punish you for being late. Even bolting plants are edible. And before that happens, spinach provides weeks of steady greens with very little effort. For lazy gardeners, that reliability is a major win. Plant number 9, cucumbers. Cucumbers are surprisingly easy to grow, especially when you let them grow the way they want to. They thrive in zones 4 to 11, loving warmth and sunlight, and once established, they grow fast with minimal encouragement. One of the reasons cucumbers are perfect for lazy gardeners is their growth habit. When allowed to climb or sprawl naturally, they focus energy on producing fruit instead of fighting for space. This reduces disease, keeps fruit cleaner, and lowers the need for constant intervention. Cucumbers also produce continuously once they start. As long as the plant is healthy, it keeps flowering and setting fruit throughout the season. Miss a harvest? You simply end up with larger cucumbers, not a failed crop. With basic watering and sunlight, cucumbers do most of the work themselves. They don't require pruning, constant feeding, or exact timing. For gardeners who want steady production without micromanagement, cucumbers are a dependable choice. Plant number 10, peppers. Peppers are often seen as delicate plants, but once established, they are surprisingly tough and forgiving, which makes them excellent for lazy gardeners. Across the US and Canada, peppers grow well in zones 4 to 11, especially in warm, sunny spots. Once their roots are settled, peppers prefer to be left alone rather than constantly fussed over. One reason peppers work well for low-effort gardening is their efficiency. They don't need daily watering, and in fact, they perform better when the soil dries slightly between waterings. This makes them ideal for gardeners who don't want to stick to strict schedules or worry about missing a day or two. Peppers are also long producers. Once flowering begins, plants continue setting fruit over an extended period. Whether you grow sweet bell peppers or hot varieties, one plant can provide a steady harvest for months with minimal attention. Another advantage is resilience. Peppers tolerate heat extremely well and bounce back from stress better than many vegetables. As long as they have sunlight and decent soil, they quietly keep producing, proving that consistent food doesn't require constant effort. Plant number 11, garlic. Garlic is one of the ultimate plant it and forget it vegetables, which is why it's perfect for lazy gardeners. It grows best in zones 3 to 9 and is usually planted in the fall, then left alone through winter and early spring. During that time, it quietly develops underground with almost no input from you. What makes garlic special is how little maintenance it needs. You don't need to fertilize often, prune anything, or worry about pests constantly attacking it. Garlic naturally repels many insects, making it one of the lowest problem crops you can grow. Another reason garlic suits lazy gardeners is timing. When spring arrives, garlic is already growing, long before many other vegetables are planted. This spreads your workload out and reduces the pressure of doing everything at once. Harvesting garlic is simple and satisfying. You pull it once, cure it, and store it for months. Very few vegetables give you that much food security with such little effort. Plant number 12, kale. Kale earns its place on this list because it is one of the most resilient leafy vegetables available. It grows well in zones 3 to 10, tolerating cold, heat, and inconsistent care better than most greens. Once established, kale simply keeps growing. One of kale's biggest advantages is its long harvest window. You don't harvest it once and lose the plant. Instead, you pick the outer leaves, and the center continues producing new growth for months. This makes kale incredibly efficient for gardeners who don't want to replant constantly. Kale also handles neglect well. Miss watering? It recovers. Forget to harvest? Leaves get bigger, not ruined. Cold snaps that kill other greens often make kale sweeter instead of harming it. For lazy gardeners, kale offers reliability. One planting can provide continuous greens through much of the growing season, and sometimes even into winter, with very little effort beyond basic care. If there's one lesson from this list, it's this. Gardening doesn't have to be hard to be productive. When you choose the right vegetables, when nature does most of the work for you, these plants forgive mistakes, tolerate neglect, and still show up with food, exactly what most people actually need. If this helped you, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and save it for planting season. Lazy gardening isn't about doing less. It's about growing smarter and letting the plants do what they were designed to do.